Hello students, how are you all? Hope you all are doing well, keeping yourself healthy and keep learning. Right, students, today I am starting history chapter 2. Before I proceed towards the lesson, let me clarify this thing. This is your history textbook. This is new edition. Right, till previous year there were two parts. Our past 3, part 1 and part 2 till last year. Both these parts were carrying 6 chapters. In part 1 also there were 6 chapters, in part 2 also total 12 chapters were there. But it's good news for you that CBSE NCERT has reduced 2 chapters from both the part and compiled in a one textbook, one part, one book. That is our past 3. So now those who have got new book, okay, so they got this book because many students were asking that last year there were part 1, part 2, this year we got only one book. So I thought that let me clear it that this is new edition and this is a compiled of both the part. Total 10 chapters are there in your syllabus. So I hope now you will not have any confusion related to textbook. Okay student, in this history book we have done one chapter and today we are starting chapter 2 from trade to territories. So students, as I told you that this is chapter 2 from trade to territory. The company, here company means East India Company. The British East India Company establishes power. So here in this chapter you will learn the story how Britishers established, first they came as a trader and then established themselves as a ruler of this subcontinent. So let us start, and as I told you that you are learning history, but don't keep in mind that don't have that burden that you are learning history. The best way to do this is to start by developing an understanding of the big picture. Like you just imagine that big picture and then working your way down to the detail. What I am telling to you. During my lecture and while reading textbook, always try and place events, facts and details within the context of the big picture. What you have imagined that big picture and all events are coming one by one. Basically, experience is important, and in history, history teaches us the mistakes and achievements of our ancestors. Like when you are learning it as a subject, now then you will find it bored. But you take it as a story. Like history always teaches us the mistakes and achievements of our ancestors, and history can be studied interestingly by thinking it as a story. We can connect most of the incident with the present. I have found that in higher classes dates are less important, but the period in which that event taken place is important. Names are the most important part of history. You can treat them as the character of this and to elaborate the story. Suppose East India Company in this chapter you will learn. As a character, you can elaborate the story, you can understand, then you can easily grab this concept. And most of the point I keep on telling that underline it, jot down somewhere. So if you develop this habit, then you will find it very interesting. Remember, here you don't need to mug up, but you have to understand. Try to form a connection with each incident. Connection is easy to form in the case of suppose one event happened, so there will be one incident, reason, right? Why this event happened because of that event, why another event happened because of this event. So you need to establish connection. Through connection you can develop story in your mind, and once this story develop in your mind, fix in your mind, then you will not need to mug up. So in this way you will gradually like this subject, like this chapter, and then you will understand very. And then anytime if somebody will ask you that what is history, what you learn, you can easily in your own word you can easily speak. Okay, so here in trade to territories chapter they have given from the Mughal empire decline. You just recall again, I am connecting this event with that event when Mughal empire declined. You remember you have prepared 6-7 reasons. One of that was Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was very ambitious ruler, and he was, no doubt, he was powerful, but he was bribed by some foreign companies like East India Company, French and all, and he always involved in series of wars. Nadir Shah attack, right? Nadir Shah plundered 5 times. Ahmad Shah Abdali attack. So in this way he lost his all treasure, and after him his sons were also not powerful. You remember I explained you last year. Now you have to connect that event with this. Here, same thing they have given. Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal ruler. He established control over a very large part of territory that is now known as India. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors, subadars, and big zamindars, right? You remember Mughal Empire fragment into three overlapping groups, Watan Jagir and who seized independence, like that. So then the subadars, this commander, they became ruler, and is in this way such a whole Mughal emperor was declined into small group. In this era, that British trading companies from Europe, not only from England but from France, Valanda, Portugal, they started here for things from India. Which type of things they like? Spices, cotton, silk. So, first thing we can connect with this event, that when and why did the British first choose to invade India? The British first landed in India at Surat for the purpose of trade. Here, how and why a simple trading company, the British East India Company, became one of the biggest challenge the subcontinent had ever dealt with. We have never faced, Indian subcontinent never faced such a company will come here as a trader and control, express its control in this way. So this chapter is all about it. Here it is written that by second half of the 18th century, however, a new power was emerging on the political horizon, the British. But how it's all started? So this chapter is about all this event. See this scene? Can you imagine what is this? Yes, here it is written. Bahadur Shah Jafar and his son being arrested by Captain Hudson. After Aurangzeb, there was no powerful Mughal ruler, but Mughal emperor continued to be symbolically important because they ruled over from, if you imagine that first Mughal empire Babur established around 1300, from 1200 1300 till 17. So it was considered as the most powerful, and they always favor India, right? Not like Britishers, they only exploited, but they favor and develop. So here it is written that after Aurangzeb there was no powerful Mughal ruler, but Mughal emperor continued to be symbolically important. In fact, when a massive rebellion against British rule broke out in 1857, that 1857 revolt is also very important in Indian history, that is separately given in chapter 5 that we will do at that time. So, Indian people, Bahadur Shah Jafar, the Mughal emperor at the time, was seen as the natural leader because he was a part of Mughal empire's experience how to control and lead such movement. So, Indian people, they asked Bahadur Shah Jafar to lead this revolt, and at that time was seen as a natural leader. Once the revolt was put down by the company, Bahadur Shah Jafar was forced to leave the kingdom, and his son, here you can see that they both, Bahadur Shah Jafar, and here you can see that son captured by British, and his sons were killed in front of him, and Bahadur Shah Jafar was sent to Rangoon jail. At present it is at Burma. This is one incident, but we are learning how British came to India and they established. So the first event we will connect with East India Company. The British landed in India, Surat, on August 24, 1608. While India has a rich and recorded history going back 4000 years, Indian history is considered as the oldest. And when Britishers came, Indian history going back 4000 years to the Indus Valley civilization in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Britain had no indigenous written language until the 9th century, almost 3000 years after India. Then, how was it possible that such a low history people then they can capture this huge country and control it from 1757 to 1947? You can imagine around 200 years they control Indian subcontinent, Indian territories. They had why? The reason is they had more economic power, financially they were powerful, better weapons, and a certain European confidence which allowed them to slowly permeate into the Indian subcontinent till it was ruling the huge nation. Now, now for this story, why East India Company was able to started controlling. So the main reason of their coming here was new sea route become popular. First, Indian and from Europe to India, it was people cannot imagine that one can go, and it was considered that Sat Samundar Par. How can we go, right? But a sea route connecting to Europe to India came into the limelight in 1498, and Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama came to Calicut, and he found this route. Actually, he was also wandering and finding the way, and all of a sudden he came. He landed here, and then he found that it is a place, Indian subcontinent place, that is Calicut. This made India the center of attention of Europe's trade circuit, and European power rushed to the Asia to get their own trading post. Even though the primary motive at the first was trade, right? Their intention was to make maximum trade and profit from here. The European powers started to get more interest in acquiring territories. British were one of these power looking for money and action. There were so many. As I told you that not only from England, European means European countries like England, France, Portugal, Valanda, they all wanted to control Indian territories because they wanted all the things from India at very cheap rate. They wanted to do trade and earn maximum profit. So, how was the British East India Company formed? Because we are concentrating on British East India Company. The British East India Company was formed in 1599 under a charter granted by Queen Elizabeth in 1600 century. The British Joint Stock Company, as it was known earlier, was founded by John Watts and George. The names are not given in your book, but in 1600 the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England at that time, Queen Elizabeth I, granting it the sole right. According to that charter, according to that Farman, East India Company has a sole right to trade with East. It means sole right means no other company from England, right? Because they have given from England. So no other company from England can trade with India except East India Company. This means, here the meaning given. This means that no other trading group in England could compete with East India Company. With this charter, the company could venture across the oceans, looking for new lands from which it could buy goods at a cheap rate and carry them back to Europe to sell at higher price. Right? Here you can underline this. The East India Company's main intention, their intention was to buy goods at a cheap price, bring them into Europe and sell at a higher price. The company did not have to fear competition from other English trading companies. Mercantile. What is the meaning of mercantile? Here it is given. A business enterprise that makes profit primarily through trade, buying goods cheap and selling them at higher price. Means doing business. Mercantile here means doing business. Mercantile trading companies in those days made profit primarily by excluding competition. Right? Once England they started establish their factories and company here, then other European countries like France, they also wanted to control India. Then Portugal also, Valandas also. So the Royal Charter, however, could not prevent other European power. According to that charter, no other company from England. But here it cannot stop other European power to enter in Eastern market. Eastern market here means Indian market. By the time the first English ship sailed down the west coast of Africa, round the Cape of Good Hope, right? So in this time when all these things were going on, other companies from Europe, they wanted to come to India. In meanwhile, first ship came to east through Cape of Good Hope and crossed the Indian Ocean. The Portuguese had already established their presence in the western coast of India with the help of Vasco da Gama and had their base at Goa. In fact, it was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, right? I told you that same thing is again who had discovered this sea route to India in 1498. By the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities of trade. Yeah, it is like this, no? That once they found they all wanted to take profit from India. They wanted to buy cheap good from India and they wanted to sell in European market. Soon the French traders arrived on the scene. So now you can see how many European countries were in competition. England, first company, then Portuguese, then Wallendas, then Dutch, and then France. The problem was all the companies were interested in buying the same thing. Right? Which type of things were in great demand in European countries? It is given here. The fine quality, you can underline it because it is the part of your textual answer also. The fine qualities of cotton and silk produced in India had a big market in Europe. Right? Indian cotton and silk were demanded by royal families in European countries. Along with this, pepper, cloves, cardamom, cinnamon too were in a great demand. So, cotton and silk were there and other spices were also in great demand. And for this all these Indian goods, competition amongst the European companies inevitably pushed up the prices. Right? Now all these people were demanding more and more Indian goods. So as demand increase, then prices will be high. Prices will be high, that their profit will be low because they cannot sell at such a high price in their country. So there was a fierce competition amongst all these European companies. Then competition amongst these European companies inevitably pushed up the prices of at which these goods could be purchased, and this reduced the profit that could be earned. The only way the trading companies could flourish was by eliminating rival competitors. Now, how can they maximize their profit? The only way if they could eliminate the competition. How can they do? If they cannot have the compromise because every company wanted to their own profit. The urge to secure market therefore led to fierce battle between the trading companies. Through the 17th and 18th centuries, they regularly sank each other's ships. Now what they started? Suppose company from France, they started having some revenge like things from the England or Portuguese companies and they started sinking their ships, blockade routes and prevented rival ships from the moving with the supplies of goods. That is also a problem. Trade was carried on with arms. Now what this company started? They started because they have to use the sea route. So whenever they were, you remember one movie was there, Pirates of Caribbean. In that also they have shown whenever they are moving with ships, they are always having army. So trade was carried on with arms and trading posts were protected through fortification. So whatever the ports they were dealing, they started fortification. Fortification means construction fort like so no one can enter without permission. This effort to fortify settlements and carry on a profitable trade also led to intense conflict with local rulers. Now what happened when they were having this fair competition among these European companies, and for that competition they started fortification nearby the port. So obviously local ruler will not like it. So they have that conflicts with local ruler. The company therefore found it difficult to separate trade from politics. Now suppose local ruler will involve and they will stop. So company thought that how can we deal with all these things? Then they started interfering in political matters of the local ruler. Let's see how this happened. Okay, so now here they have given very important topic, right? They started conflict with the local rule because local rule put objection that why they are doing fortification, why their land is going like this. Obviously, local ruler will not like that. Some other European companies are coming here on their sea coast. They are making their ports and fortification they are doing. So they put objection. Indeed, they are having conflicts. So now British East India Company was thinking that how can we flourish our trade in such a atmosphere, such climate? We need to put some more thing. So they started interfering in political matters of the local ruler. They have given very nice example of Bengal, and as they did with Bengal, other territories were also disturbed by British. Okay, so this topic heading is East India Company begins trade in Bengal. The first English factory was set up on the bank of the river Hooghly in 1651. So here, please keep in mind, underline this. In previous page, you learned that East India Company established in 1600, and here the difference between these 2 points is here they are talking about first English factory in India. They established at the bank of river Hooghly in 1651. So students, don't get confused, make it clear. First incident was East India Company's establishment, and this incident is of English factory in India, establishment of English factory in India. This was the base from which the company's trader, known at that time as a factors, operated. Because they were they were operating factories, so they were known as the factors operated. The factory had a warehouse. Okay, now you just think at present era also, when if you are having a factory, your parents, your father, your relatives, they are having factory. So what the other thing need? They need warehouse, they need offices, and gradually they will start expanding, and then they will establish office, factory in other area also. Same, the factory had a warehouse where goods for export were stored. Means whatever the factory they established, nearby they established warehouse for storing goods, and it had offices where company officers sat. As trade expanded, the company persuaded merchant and traders to come and settle near the factory. Now what happened? As company started expansion of the trade, not only it was not limited to only this Calcutta at Bengal. Near that first setup was on the river bank of Hooghly, but they gradually they started expansion. So they persuaded, they forced their officials to come here from England to India and settle near the factories. So in this way, more and more English people started coming to India. By 1696, it began building a fort around the settlement. Now what happened? Because whatever the settlement they were doing, like offices, warehouses, factory, so they started fortification all around this settlement. 2 years later, it bribed Mughal officials into giving the company zamindari rights over 3 villages. Now gradually what happened, they understand how these Indian rulers are working. They started giving bribe, and they started getting permission of the rights over the villages. One of these was Kalikata, which later grew into the city of Calcutta or Kolkata, as it is known today. Right? So previously it was known as a Kalikata, then gradually it converted into name Calcutta at the time of independence, and then again it is known as Kolkata. It also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman granting the company right to trade duty free. See, this is the important topic, underline this. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, he was very ambitious, right? Last year also you learned. He always want to increase his treasure and territories. So, and British came to know this. So, they persuaded, they forced Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb by giving money and other things and issue a farman. Farman is a royal order granting the company the right to trade duty free. Means till the time they were doing this trade, but they have to pay duty. Duty means taxes. Now because of taxes their profit was decreasing. So what they plan, that if we bribe one ruler like Aurangzeb or any other, and if we get a farman, if we get a permission, royal order, that we can do, because we are East India Company, we are from England, we are superior. So if we get farman of duty free tax and duty free trade, then we can easily maximize our profit. The company tried continuously to press for more concessions and manipulate existing privileges. Means first they got farman also, because Aurangzeb, he took money and he gave farman. That was the weak point of our Mughal emperor, and that time this situation created. The company tried continuously, means once it is like this, once you got some advantage and you wanted to more and more. Company tried continuously to press more for concession. Once Mughal emperor gave farman, then they wanted more concession on the name of this, for the sake of this. They manipulate existing privileges. Whatever the privileges as a company from England, whatever the advantages they were getting, they started asking for more. Aurangzeb's farman, for instance, had granted only the company the right to trade duty free. Right? So suppose here it is given that according to that farman, they have right to trade duty free. But officials of the company who were carrying on private trade on the side were expected to pay duty. Means those who were doing trade on behalf of East India Company, they were allowed to do duty free trade. But officials, those who were doing private trade on the side, they have to pay taxes or duty. This they refused to pay. They told that we are also Englishmen, why we should pay tax, why we will pay duty. So they refused to pay, causing an enormous loss of revenue for Bengal. And gradually, because whatever the trade, because they were purchasing goods from trade, and they were now I am talking about on behalf of Bengal. So they were East India Company, they were doing the trading on the goods from Bengal, and at that time main source of income for the any territories, any provinces was the revenue from the trade or agriculture. So such a big chunk they have not getting. So because of this enormous loss of revenue for Bengal, how could the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan, not protest? Now after all this, Aurangzeb died, then Mughal Empire declined, till the time they were continued. But gradually they found that it is a loss in the revenue of Bengal. So Murshid Quli Khan, then Sirajuddaulah, they came as a ruler of Bengal, and they were strong ruler. So how could it's possible that they not protested? Obviously they protested. That we will learn in next lesson, that how Murshid Quli Khan, Sirajuddaulah, they protest against this East India Communist policy. Okay student, hope you understand this today's part. Take it as a event. Two events you have to keep in mind. First, East India Company established, they got a sea route from England, from any European country to Asia. They started trading. As they started trading, then they started interfering in the political matter of Indian ruler. And one example of Bengal, how they interfere in the Bengal's matter, how Aurangzeb, they bribed Aurangzeb and he persuaded him to issue a farman granting the company the right to trade duty free. Okay, so hope you understand about how Mughal Empire declined. What were the reasons? I shortly brief. Then I explain you when, how East India Company established, what were its function at initial level, how they expanded. All about it you learn in today's lesson. Further we will learn in next lesson. Till that time, keep learning. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye students.